Okay guys, I'm here at the dealership. I'm gonna do some car paint scratch repair. The dealer called me up because he needs the professional touch of auto fetish. So I've got my arsenal of stuff behind me. I'm gonna be working on a silver Chevy Silverado, and I'm gonna show you some wet sanding, some polishing, and hopefully you're gonna learn something along the way. First, let me dissect what is going on here. Now, despite it being known as sunny Southern California, it is raining today. There's my van. The weather sucks, but guess what? Johnny Dealer called me today, and we've got this scratch going on, which is kind of hard to see, but there's all these scratches here. It doesn't really matter how well it shows up. Point is, I'm going to show you technique, and I'm going to wet sand it. So let's just get started. All right guys, this is welcome to the world of detailing. I've got a lot of stuff trying to go on here. I've got a little bit of wind. I'm right on the border of the inside versus the outside, so I'm getting a little overspray from Mother Nature. So the scratch is not really showing up, but it's here. I'm just trying to pan around so you can see some different shots. It would be more ideal if it was black paint, but whatever. There's still some learning moments within this job. So the first step in any scratch assessment is just that. You assess it before you attempt to fix it. So I always start out with what I call the fingernail test. I have gloves on, I've already done it, but just pretend for a moment, play along with me folks, that I am taking my fingernail and I'm scratching this. The point is, can you feel an edge with your fingernail? And by edge, it does not require much of an edge that I know as a professional with experience that the scratch is going to be too deep to sand it away completely. And I will have customers that will call me and want to do scratch repair, and they will try to diminish it through their words. They'll say, oh Darren, I can feel an edge, but it's not that significant. So just know that going into it, it's always going to be worse than what Johnny customer says it will. I am not looking for perfection. What I'm trying to do in this moment is to diminish it, because I know that this scratch is deep enough that I would have to sand off the entire clear coat in order to remove it. That would create a worse problem. So we want to find that winning balance. The steps are, you apply some running water. You use running water so it washes away the slurry as you sand away the clear coat. We are sanding away the clear coat so that we can essentially try to get to the bottom of the scratch itself. Then we can polish away the sanding mark. Now, it does not take much water. There's so many ways to do this. I like to go with the simple approach. I've got my Rupes DA. Now this has a 3000 grit sanding disc on it. Now you always check the disc for any debris. I don't care if it's brand new, slightly used, or very used. You always check your disc to make sure there's no foreign objects or debris on it, okay? And typically you get the sanding disc wet. I'm not going to overthink it once again because I know how to operate outside the boundaries. Put it that way. The question automatically becomes, Darren, how do I know how much I can do, how much I can't? Well, I don't use a paint gauge. Why? Because I know that I always want to retain as much clear coat as possible. When I explain that to a customer, as in never, very few customers will ever tell me, I don't care how thin the clear coat gets, Darren, I want that scratch gone if you can make it gone. Well, I've never had a customer say that, because when I tell them that the clear coat is a good thing, we want to keep as much clear coat as possible. So if I sand it all the way down, that's a worse problem. Or if I sand it down too thin, that's a bad problem. So we have to find that winning balance, which is not perfection. And by perfection, I mean that the scratch will not be gone 100%. So that's just where experience comes in. You saw how long I sanded. I was using virtually no pressure because I'm just trying to sand around. I'm just trying to sand the material or the surfaces around the scratch while going over the scratch, because what I'm trying to do is, if I have the scratch like this, I'm essentially trying to sand it down so it's more like a scratch like that, but there's still a scratch. But now what I've done is I've sanded down all the edges to the scratch itself. I've diminished the clear coat around the scratch, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish it, and we will see how much scratch is in fact left. Silver or any light colored car, it's both the good news and bad news. It's good because it's very forgiving in that it's hard to discern any imperfections. It's bad because when you're working on it, it's hard to see what you're doing. So I've wiped it down, I've checked it, I've got the desired results that I want for this step of the process. Now I know most of you will be using a DA polisher. So I picked 3000 grit for two reasons. One is I don't need to be overly aggressive because I'm not, meaning once again, I'm trying to save the clear coat. The scratch was deep, but not so deep that I felt that I needed to go with a more aggressive sanding paper. Also, because I know I'm going to be using a DA, because I know most of you guys will be using a DA, I know that I can remove 3000 grit sanding marks with a DA very quickly. Now, speed is, or time is money, so the quicker I can get to the end result, the better, the more money I can make. I know that I could have sanded this with 1500 grit and sanded about a third of the amount of time, switched straight to my rotary buffer, and because this is silver, I could get it all done with the rotary, and I could get this job done in probably, I would say, a half, in the amount of time, half of what I did by using 3000 grit and this DA buffer. But for all you guys, because I'm a giver, I'm going to show you using the DA. Now this DA pad has been used before. It's a Americana Global pad. I'm going to have a few more videos coming up. I love this pad. Right there, you see that polish? That's all the polish I'm going to use, and this pad is dry. It has not been seasoned, but this is all the polish you need. So for all you beginners out there, more is not better. I know in society we're all trained to think more is better. Well, no, more is not better. That's all it's going to take right now. And I'm also getting some like precipitation from this weather going on behind me, and it's really not that big of a deal, so I'm just going to work with it. How about that? And by the way, I'm using Jescar correcting compound. It says it eliminates 1500 grit sanding marks. It's kind of confusing, but the owner, manufacturer of this, which is also the distributor of Minzerna products for here in the US, it gets kind of convoluted, but the point is I'm testing out his stuff, and so far I love it. He says if I love the Menzurna, I'm gonna love this. I'm not quite sure exactly how it's commingled as far as companies go. And I just barely got this in the mail from him. I think it's out of, Nanuet, New York. Never heard of it. I'm sure it's a swell place though. So I've got a little water. Actually, it's a little less now. This is my second round. You'll notice very little polish. I'm going to be applying minimal pressure. My guess would be about 3 to 5 pounds of pressure. Good luck trying to figure out how much that actually is. Now I can tell that the scratches are still here, some of them. I have removed some of the scratch because really it was a pretty good length of a scratch. Unfortunately it's silver, so it's not the perfect canvas for shooting a video, but I know because I can still see it, there is a few areas, and I knew this would be the case, that the scratches still remain. But now what I've done is I've sanded the edges off and I have essentially blended it in. So no one looking at this truck under normal circumstances is going to see these scratches. I would have to point them out to them. So that to me is a winning balance as far as getting this truck sold. It's going to be a daily driver. It's not a showpiece. You get the point. With that said I did 2 passes with this. I did not clean my pad. A lot of you have asked for a specific video on cleaning pads. I'm just going to give you a little cliff note version right now of what I do when I'm doing spot scratch repair like this. If I was doing the entire car as far as paint correction, I would bust out my pad washer and use that. But let me show you a simple way in the moment, and you could actually do it on a full car if you want. It's totally up to you. What I have here is my rubbing alcohol and water mix. Half of it is rubbing alcohol. It's called a 50-50, an IPA. Isopropyl alcohol, I don't even know. It's IPA. That's the acronym of the day. How about that? So what I do is I take my pad, I spray it, what was that, about 4 shots? Now I just take a microfiber. Yes, these are cheap Costco microfibers. I use them from brand new and they just get downgraded every time I wash them or use them. So I take one that's already been used and washed and I turn this on. Now there's some alcohol water mixture on it and I simply turn this on. That is a very quick and easy way. Look how clean that pad is. And by the way, I've used this pad at least 20 times. I don't mean 20 full paint correction jobs, but I've been on this pad for hours, put it that way. And look how well it holds up. I am like seriously impressed with these pads. And look how clean it is. So that's a very quick, easy way to clean your pad in the moment. As a rule, what I will do is I will do what I consider anywhere from 2 to 3 passes, which means I put my compound on the pad, I buff it, that's 1 pass. So I will do that 2 to 3 times and then I will clean it each time, just doing that very quickly. So that's my little lesson, my little sidebar lesson as far as pad cleaning goes. It's probably not gonna show up. Hey Joel, what's up, bro? What's up? You guys might remember Joel. Are you famous yet, Joel, from that video? Well, dude, what's up? Might have been that glazed over look where you're about falling asleep because I was droning on so extensively. Yeah. I get. What's your brand of energy drink?
Monster.
Monster. Apparently, Monster was not sufficient enough to revive you out of your comatose state. Yeah, they don't make it yet. Yeah, because it'd be like illegal. They'd probably have to put it with they would probably have to infuse it with like crack cocaine. So you guys might remember Joel. Anyhow, I'm going to show you. You're probably not going to be able to see, but I'm going to point out the scratches. There's still some blemishes here. Let me see that pad for a moment, Joel. There's still some deep scratch there. I'm not sure if it's going to reveal itself. This lighting is not the best. But with that said, is from a distance, I mean, that's a pretty healthy gloss. I certainly removed some of the orange peel. And Johnny customer will never know that there was a scratch there. And this is what the dealer asked for. So this is what Darren, master of detail, has delivered in the moment.